AEW is reportedly being sued by former wrestlers in the company. We're going to talk about that, plus all out plans and some good news for WWE and TNA's partnership. It's all coming up right here on the Ango Show. Yes. All right, I want to kick things off. Let's talk a little bit about some AEW All Out plans. Obviously, we're going to take this with a grain of salt until AEW formally announces this. But while speaking on the Wrestling Observer Radio, Bryan Alvarez noted that Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland is currently being planned as the main event. He says, at least as of the last I've heard, which was, I think, Friday or something like that, the Swerve Strickland Hangman Page Steel Cage match is scheduled to be the main event going on last. I certainly would not want to follow that match, but that's just me. This is actually a rare time where I agree with Bryan Alvarez. This is a storyline that has a lot of meat on the bone, and quite frankly, if you're AEW, you should have this match main event. I don't care what the plans are for Bryan Danielson or for any other championship match for that matter. This is the storyline that has been very big for AEW this past year, and it's the one that should culminate at this show. I feel like for AEW, they're kind of rushing between All In to All Out. And by having Hangman Page get involved in Swerve's main event match at All In, I feel like that was a great booking idea to set up this match, obviously, for All Out. But yeah, I definitely agree. It's the right decision. It is very rare where I would see a non-world title match main eventing a pay-per-view. Like, I typically believe that a pay-per-view should main event with the world championship, whether it's for the men or women. But in this case, honestly, it's just one of the stronger storylines, and that there has to be given a lot of props to AEW for the way they've constructed this storyline. There's a lot of ways to go back to it, and they've done that. But it just feels like a very personal feud. It feels like a blood feud. It feels like a feud that is actually, meaningful. I think it's going to be very interesting to see the direction that they choose to go. Do you have Swerve lose to Hangman Page after he just lost to Bryan Danielson? Or do you have Swerve beat Hangman Page and then do something different with Hangman Page? I don't know. This is one of those matches where I really have a hard time picking somebody to win, because both guys should really be winning this match. And being that it's a steel cage match and it's a main event match, I could see it being a little bit overbooked. So I'm going to definitely tune in, and I definitely have a lot of interest in this to see how they go about it. I'm very curious, very, very curious how they choose to go. But that's what makes it exciting. I think this is a good one. It should be a great match. Let's talk a little bit about WWE and TNA's partnership. I actually am super excited about this. With WWE just having I don't know what it is with WWE working with TNA, but there's something magical about it. WWE stars are working TNA. TNA stars are working NXT. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reported that fans should expect a lot more of an NXT and TNA crossover. And the Rascals are actually expected to be part of plans for the next couple of months. It was said that NXT officials have been incredibly happy with Zach Wentz's performances and attitude since returning to the brand after being previously fired. This is actually really interesting too, because a lot of people do tend to forget that Zachary Wentz was fired from the WWE. It appears that his name got cleared, but obviously he went to TNA, and it's probably so easy for somebody to be disgruntled about everything that happened. But instead, the NXT officials are happy with his attitude, and that's a good thing. It says a lot about NXT and where they stand as as a brand for the WWE, but also it says a lot about Zachary Wentz, who obviously had to go through a lot of bullshit that cost him his job with the WWE. So the fact that, both sides are able to work together and this partnership is so strong to the point where WWE is essentially leasing a talent for months, I think that's so cool. It's so unique. Zach Wentz literally won against Wesley at a pay-per-view, and him being the X Division champion, it just makes me think that perhaps maybe even WWE can do an X Division match at some point later on in the year. And who knows how WWE will go about it. But, now we know Jordan Grace will be having an open challenge next week on NXT. There's just so much to be excited about here. And quite honestly, as a fan of NXT and as a fan of TNA, it's really cool seeing the synergies there. And it's really cool to see that both brands are benefiting from it, especially some of the inexperienced talent from NXT who have been able to go to TNA. It just gives them an opportunity to do something that they might not have an opportunity to do on Tuesday nights. And that's one of the things about a partnership, right? Like, a lot of people are going to talk about a partnership and they're going to say, you know, AEW and TNA's partnership was great, and they're going to say WWE and TNA's partnership is bad. But the reality is, anytime a smaller company can work with a bigger company, it's just best for business. And for TNA, you know, instead of picking whose partnership is better, I think it's just better to look at this from the perspective that, hey, TNA is benefiting from this. They did benefit from working with AEW to a certain capacity. They're benefiting from working with WWE, and WWE isn't burying TNA. So ultimately, that's just cool. Like, that's cool to see that TNA is in this position. I feel like it's so cool and unique to see that, like, you know, especially when you have Rosemary showing up and just people who are showing up by surprise, it just makes it a little bit more fun. And I get a little bit more invested in the actual TV product because of that partnership. And that brings us to our final topic, ladies and gentlemen, Tony Khan. Really quick, just a quick reminder, if you guys didn't know, I am live every day, Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern, live on the main channel. We're going to answer questions and all that good stuff, so you definitely don't miss that. Let's talk about this AEW lawsuit. According to Wrestling News AV, they first reported that Kevin Kelly and the Tate twins are allegedly suing All Elite Wrestling, Tony Khan, and Ian Riccaboni. The suit is seeking to void the arbitration clause of their talent contracts, as well as requesting the court certify a class action suit against AEW over claims that the company is misclassifying its wrestling talent as independent contractors rather than employees. Look, I'm not a legal expert. I am not part of a legal counsel. I did not go to law school, and I cannot give you any sort of insight as to how this lawsuit will play out. This is literally one of those situations where we will have to wait and see before we make a judgment on it. Now, with that being said, I do want to reiterate one thing. There has been a lot of talk about Kevin Kelly and AEW since his departure from the company, and he's been very vocal about his frustrations and all of the issues that they had with AEW and Ian Riccaboni. Now, as far as all of that goes, lawyers, court system, there's a judicial system in America that's going to look at this, and facts will be provided, and they're going to make a decision. And that is if the court case doesn't get to a settlement, right? Because sometimes that does happen. So literally what I would say is this: wait and see. Once we get some sort of rulings or some sort of massive update, click subscribe, because I will provide those updates to you. But obviously, you know, you're not going to be able to pick sides on something like this. We don't know all the facts, and therefore it's just not the right thing to do. It's not responsible to judge. But it is a very interesting thing that has come up. How does this impact AEW? It might impact them a lot. It may not impact them at all. And that's what we'll be, you know, staying patient, and we're going to stay patient and see what happens. And obviously I'll keep you guys updated. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the Ango Show.